All right, let's talk about a fascinating business puzzle. How do you take something super simple, an everyday product, and completely transform it without actually changing the product itself? This is the story of how Starbucks sold the entire world an experience, not just a cup of coffee. So here's the big question, right? Think about it. Back in 1980, if you told someone you were going to happily wait in line to pay $4 for a cup of coffee, they would have thought you were nuts. Coffee was cheap, it was fuel, and it came in a styrofoam cup. So how did Starbucks convince millions of us to pay a huge premium for something that was basically free? Well, it wasn't about the beans. It was about an idea. And not big idea, it's something called the third place. This concept is the key to the whole story. The thinking goes like this. You've got home, that's your first place. You've got work, your second place. But we all need a third place. Somewhere that's not home, not work, where you can just be, a community hub. Now, Starbucks didn't invent this, but they were the first to try and build a global empire around it. To really get how they pulled this off, we have to go back in time. It all started with one guy, one business trip to Italy, and one huge aha moment that would change the future of coffee forever. So this guy, Howard Schultz, he wasn't even the founder of Starbucks. He joined back in '82 when it was just this tiny Seattle shop that sold roasted beans. But in 1983, a work trip to Milan changed everything. He walked into these Italian espresso bars and he saw theater, he saw community, he saw connection. And boom, he had this epiphany. Starbucks wasn't in the coffee business, it was in the people business. He rushes back, pitches his vision, the founders shoot him down, so he quits. He starts his own cafe. And then, in this wild twist, he ends up buying the very company that rejected him just 2 years later. And this really gets to the heart of the conflict. The original founders saw themselves as simple retailers. We sell high-quality beans for people to make at home. They famously told Schultz, we're not in the restaurant business. But Schultz saw something totally different. He wasn't trying to sell a product. He wanted to sell a feeling, an affordable luxury, a moment of escape. And here it is, perfectly put, in his own words from 1995. This quote is the third place vision. It was never just about coffee. It was about creating that sanctuary, that in-between space for people. That was the promise he was selling. Okay, so he's got this powerful vision. Now for the hard part, the massive challenge. How do you take a feeling, an experience, and scale it across the entire globe? Their expansion was just explosive. I mean, think about that pace for a second. A brand new store every single day for years. They were on a mission to put a third place on pretty much every corner in America. But scaling an experience is so much harder than scaling a product, and it required a very specific business model to pull it off. And you can really see their strategy when you compare it to a competitor like Dunkin'. Dunkin' grew super fast through franchising, letting local owners run their own shops. Starbucks? They chose the much harder, more expensive path. They owned and operated their stores directly. And why? It all came down to one word: control. If you want to deliver a consistent, premium third-place experience, from the music to the sofas to the barista training, you need to control every little detail. But all of that relentless growth, it came at a cost. The very essence of what made Starbucks special started to fray around the edges, and that led to a moment of crisis. By 2008, the cracks were really starting to show. Now, yeah, there was a global financial crisis, but Starbucks had its own problems. For the first time ever, sales in their existing stores were actually going down. The stock price had cratered. And the criticism was that in their quest for growth, they'd just become another fast food chain. The focus on speed and efficiency was killing that cozy, premium experience. The third place vibe was getting lost. And this is not some ancient history. Fast forward to today, 2024, and the company is still fighting this exact same battle. The new CEO publicly announced a plan with a very familiar goal: to make Starbucks third places again. I mean, that's a direct admission that the brand's core identity got lost and they need to rebuild it. And the reason this is so important now is because the need for these spaces is absolutely critical. Take a look at this number: 1/3. 1/3 of American adults say they feel lonely every single week. We are living in an epidemic of loneliness. So the need for genuine human connection, for real third places, is arguably even greater now than it was when Schultz first had his epiphany in Milan. So this brings up a huge question. While a global corporation tries to engineer connection from the top down, who's actually building these spaces from the ground up? Well, it turns out the independent shops, they never stopped. Let's look at a really powerful example. This place is called Muslims of the World Coffee in Indianapolis. The owner, Sajjad Shah, explains that it started with a really specific mission to create a positive space and maybe change some perceptions about his culture. But it just took off with people from all backgrounds because at its heart, it was built on authentic community. And their impact is just, wow, this isn't corporate marketing, it's real action. They hosted a full wedding for an Afghan refugee couple who had nothing. They rallied all their customers to buy an e-bike for a local teenager with autism. They raised $14,000 to get a man experiencing homelessness a car and an apartment. I mean, this is what a true community hub does. Just like Sajjad Shah says, doing good is what we stand for. It's not a strategy for them, it's their purpose. And this is the soul of a third place that grows organically from the needs of the people it actually serves. So this all brings us to the final and most critical question about where we all find connection in this modern world. And here's the core dilemma, isn't it? Starbucks became a giant by packaging and selling the idea of a third place. But can that centrally planned corporate version ever truly be the same as the authentic, messy, spontaneous community that places like Muslims of the World Coffee build from the ground up? So as we all search for more connection in our lives, here's the fundamental question to think about. Where will we find it? Can community be standardized, scaled, and sold like a franchise? Or is true connection by its very nature always something that has to be small, personal, and deeply local?